There is a sound a tin roof makes when a hard summer rain comes off Pine Mountain. It starts as a tapping, quick and scattered, the first drops finding the metal. Then it builds until the whole roof is ringing, and the water is sheeting down the slope in curtains, and the gutters are full, and the sound is something between music and thunder. I have heard that sound my whole life. I stop whatever I am doing when I hear it, every time. Because when Grandmother Loretta heard that sound, she did not run for cover. She walked out onto the porch, leaned on the post with both hands, looked up at the underside of the clouds coming in from the Black Mountain Gap, and said the same thing she said every time the summer rains came heavy. "Lord's fillin' the barrels." She did not mean it as a figure of speech. The barrels were real. 4 55-gallon food-grade drums lined along the north face of the farmhouse, each one fitted with a mesh screen across the top, each one connected to the roof gutters by a piece of salvaged tin bent into a channel. When the rain came, they filled. When they filled, the family had water. Water to drink, water to cook with, water to wash 11 people's worth of laundry in a house with no running line until 1958. Water to keep the kitchen garden alive through the dry stretches in August when the creek dropped and the well needed to rest. In 40 years of keeping that farmhouse, Grandmother Loretta never paid a water bill. Not one. The company that eventually ran the water line into this county came through in the late 1950s, and most families connected and most families started paying. Loretta looked at the line. She looked at her barrels. She looked at the filtration box she had built along the south wall of the root cellar, scavenged lumber, creek sand, and hardwood charcoal she had been making herself from the oak in the stove since before the war. And she kept the barrels. My mother Dorothy connected to the line. She had young children and she thought it was easier. And she was right, it was easier. But Loretta kept the barrels. And I am going to show you what Loretta knew, because $40 a month for water that falls out of the sky for free is not a bill my family intends to keep paying. My name is Ruth Combs. My family has farmed the same hollow in Harlan County, Kentucky for 4 generations. Grandmother Loretta taught me this system when I was 5 years old. Not from a book, not in a classroom. She walked me out to that filtration box on a November morning when the frost was still on the ground, opened the lid, showed me the layers inside, the gravel at the bottom, the sand above it, the dark band of charcoal in the middle, and told me to put my hand in the stream of water coming out of the spigot at the base. It was cold, it was clean, it tasted like nothing at all, like water is supposed to taste. I have been running a version of that same system on this farm for 15 years. I am going to show you how to build one. Now here is something worth sitting with for a minute. The United States Geological Survey estimates that the average American uses between 80 and 100 gallons of water per person every day. For a family of 4, that is between 320 and 400 gallons every single day, roughly 10,000 gallons a month. The American Water Works Association reported in 2023 that the average household water bill in the United States runs about $83 a month. That is just under $1,000 a year. For something that falls out of the sky for free onto every rooftop in this country, 12 months a year, whether anyone collects it or not. Now, I want to be plain about something before I go further. I am not going to stand here and tell you that municipal water systems are your enemy. I spent 5 years as a nurse in Lexington, and I know what waterborne disease looks like, and I know that centralized water treatment exists because cholera and typhoid and dysentery used to kill whole city blocks before it came in. I am not dismissing that. I am not telling you to tear out your water line. What I am telling you is that the knowledge of how to collect, filter, and safely store rainwater, The knowledge that kept this hollow alive before any line was ever run up this mountain is still valid, still functional, still practical on a farm, on a homestead, as a backup system, as a primary system for anyone with the right climate and the right roof. And this knowledge has been sitting in the memory of families like mine, quietly fading for 3 generations. My mother was the first generation to let it go. I am the last generation that watched it done by the woman who built it herself. So I am telling you now, before it goes entirely, because this knowledge does not belong to me. It belongs to the hillside, and to the rain, and to anyone willing to learn it. Now, before I show you the build, let me tell you what is actually happening inside that filter box. Because the science is real, and I want you to understand it, not just follow the steps, but understand why each one matters. A system you understand is a system you can fix when something goes wrong. Rainwater, when it falls, is among the purest water that naturally exists. Before it touches any surface, it is passed through the full hydrological cycle: evaporation, condensation, and precipitation, a process that effectively distills it. The Environmental Protection Agency has documented that properly collected and filtered rainwater is a viable potable water source when handled correctly. The contamination problems begin the moment that rain touches your roof, your gutters, and your storage containers. Bird droppings, pollen, particulate from road traffic and agricultural spray, organic material that has been sitting on the roof since the last rainfall. This is what the filter is built to remove. The system Loretta built is a 3-stage process that has been documented in environmental science literature for over 100 years and practiced by communities across Appalachia, the American Southwest, and sub-Saharan Africa long before anyone put it in a textbook. Stage 1 is mesh filtration, a fine mesh screen fitted across the top of every collection barrel. This catches leaves, insects, and any particulate large enough to see with the naked eye. Simple, cheap, non-negotiable. A $5 roll of window screen cut to fit will do it. Stage 2 is slow sand filtration. This is where the biology begins, and this is the part most people underestimate. Water passes down through 8 to 12 inches of coarse sand, slowly, and that word slowly is doing more work than it looks like. A properly maintained slow sand filter develops what environmental engineers call a Schmutzdecke. It is a German term that translates roughly as dirt blanket. It is a living biological film, invisible to the eye, that forms in the top 2 centimeters of the sand within the first few weeks of operation. It is a community of bacteria, protozoa, and algae that actively consumes pathogens as water passes through it. A peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Water Supply in 2009 found that a slow sand filter operating at the correct flow rate removes between 99.8 and 99.99% of Giardia and Cryptosporidium cysts, the 2 organisms most commonly responsible for waterborne illness from surface water sources in North America. 99.9%. With sand. With time. With a drip rate slow enough to let the biology work. Loretta did not know the word Schmutzdecke. She called it the sand that wakes up. She said the filter took about 3 weeks after a rebuild before it got good, and she was right. She was describing biological colonization, the same process that environmental engineers documented in laboratory studies a generation later. She just described it in the language of a woman who had watched it happen with her own eyes. Stage 3 is activated charcoal. This is the part that stops most people. Loretta kept a packed layer of hardwood charcoal below the sand in that filter box. Real wood charcoal, not briquettes, not lighter fluid charcoal, hardwood charcoal, she made herself from the scraps of oak she burned in the stove. Charcoal is porous at the molecular level, in a way that is difficult to picture until you learn the numbers. 1 gram of activated carbon has an internal surface area of approximately 500 square meters. 500 square meters, the equivalent of 2.5 tennis courts, packed into something you can hold in a closed fist. That surface area traps organic compounds, volatile chemicals, heavy metals, and the compounds responsible for taste and odor in collected water. The EPA uses activated carbon as a standard stage in municipal water treatment. It has been in industrial use since the 1930s. Loretta was running the same principle in the 1940s in a box she built from salvaged boards on the side of her root cellar. She called it the char, and she never explained why it worked. She just showed me and expected me to remember. 3 stages, 1 box, water that tastes like the mountain it fell on. Now let me walk you through exactly how I have this system built on this farm today. You need 5 components, not $500 of equipment. 5 components, most of which you can source for next to nothing. The collection surface, the gutter, the settling barrel, the filter box, and the storage vessel. The collection surface is your roof, or a section of it. For water you intend to drink or cook with, a metal or clay tile roof is best. Asphalt shingles can leach compounds from the petroleum-based binding agents used in their manufacture. If that is what you have, route your collected water to the garden rather than the kitchen until you have had it tested. I collect off the east face of the barn, standing seam metal, 40 years old, clean as the day it went up. The gutter routes water from your collection surface to your first barrel. Standard aluminum gutter works fine. Keep it clean. This is the single most important maintenance task in the whole system. A gutter full of leaves and debris is adding contamination load that your filter then has to work harder to manage. I clean mine every April and every October. 30 minutes with a stiff brush and a garden hose. That is the whole job. The settling barrel. A food-grade 55-gallon drum with a mesh screen lid. You can source these from food processing plants, breweries, car wash operations, and restaurant distributors, anywhere that receives food-grade liquids in bulk quantity. I paid $10 each for mine, cleaned and ready to use, from a bottling plant in Corbin. Water runs into this barrel first and rests for 12 to 24 hours. During that settling time, heavy particulate drops to the bottom and the water clarifies before it ever touches the filter. The filter box. This is the heart of it, and I want to walk you through it layer by layer. Take a food-grade 30-gallon container and fit a quarter-turn ball valve near the base, low enough to drain filtered water out cleanly, but not at the very bottom where sediment can pool. Inside the container, working up from the bottom, 2 inches of fine gravel, rinsed thoroughly. This supports the sand above it and keeps the bottom layer from washing through. Then 8 inches of coarse sand, creek sand works well, or construction sand from the hardware store, rinsed clean before it goes in. Then 3 inches of activated hardwood charcoal. You can buy this from any aquarium supplier or homebrew shop for between $8 and $12 a pound. You will need about 2.5 pounds for a 30-gallon container. Then 1 inch of fine sand on top to cap the charcoal. Cover the entire opening with fine mesh. Now, the ball valve at the base should be set so that water drips through at a slow, controlled rate. I aim for about 1 gallon every 30 to 40 minutes out of my system. Slow is what lets the biological layer in the sand do its work. If water is rushing through the filter, you are running a mechanical filter. If water is moving slowly, you are running a living one. Those are not the same thing. They do not produce the same water. Your first 2 to 3 weeks of output, set it aside. Use it on the garden. The biological layer is still colonizing the sand, and the charcoal is not yet fully saturated. Once the filter matures, The quality of what comes out the bottom improves significantly. This is exactly what Loretta meant when she said the sand needed to wake up. The storage vessel. 100-gallon food-grade drum in a cool, dark location. My root cellar holds between 50 and 60 degrees year-round. That temperature range slows any bacterial growth in stored water and keeps it tasting clean. Never store in a clear container in direct sunlight. That is how algae starts, and algae in your drinking water is a problem you can avoid entirely by choosing the right container and the right location. The whole setup, 2 barrels, a filter box, hardware, sand, gravel, and charcoal, costs under $70 in today's market. The barrels are the biggest line item at $10 each. Loretta built hers for considerably less, but she had the charcoal. Now let me be honest about what this system will not do, because I will not let you build it and then be disappointed when it does not deliver something I never said it would. This filter, as I have described it, produces excellent water for garden irrigation, laundry, bathing, and general household use. For drinking water and cooking water, I add one step that I consider non-negotiable in this family. I boil any water from the system for 1 full minute before we drink it or cook with it. At elevations above 6,500 feet, that becomes 2 minutes. We sit at about 2,600 feet here in the Black Mountain watershed, so 1 minute is correct for us. If you prefer not to boil, a ceramic filter with a pore size of 0.2 microns will accomplish the same pathogen removal. These run between $30 and $60 and last for years with regular cleaning. I have had our collected water tested at the County Extension Office 3 times since I began running this system. It has passed clean each time against standard potable water parameters. But I maintain this system carefully. The filter box gets a full rebuild every 6 months. I pull the sand, rinse the gravel, replace the charcoal, and rebuild the layers from scratch. The settling barrel gets cleaned every 3 months. The gutters get inspected before and after every heavy weather event. A neglected filter is not a safe filter. I will not soften that. This is a system that gives back exactly what you put into it. Tend it and it will serve you for 20 years. Ignore it and it will fail you. Know what it is before you build it. One more thing. Spend 15 minutes looking up your state's regulations before you start. 41 states permit residential rainwater collection. Some place limits on storage volume or designated use. The American Rainwater Catchment Systems Association maintains a free guide by state at their website. Know the rules first. Build inside them. Now I want to say one true word before we get to the sign-off, because this is the part I have been working toward the whole way through. Every civilization that ever survived in a remote place learned to collect water. The Cherokee who taught Aunt Bertie, the woman who taught Loretta everything she knew about living on this mountain, they had this knowledge long before any settler came into these hills. The Scots-Irish families who pushed into this hollow before there was any road, any line, any municipal anything, they had it. The women who carried families through the Depression and 2 world wars on the Black Mountain watershed without a relief payment or a water bill, they had it. This was not specialized knowledge. It was not a trade secret. It was something every grandmother passed to every daughter as a matter of course, the way she passed the lye soap recipe and the timing for the fall garden. Somewhere in the last 60 years, it stopped. I am not going to tell you that was deliberate. I do not believe that, and I will not say it. What I believe is simpler, and in some ways harder to sit with. There is no money in a filter box that costs $70 and lasts 20 years with proper tending. There is very good money in a utility bill that arrives every month for the rest of your life and never stops. Nobody builds an advertising campaign around creek sand and hardwood charcoal. Nobody runs a commercial for something your grandmother already knew how to do for free. So the commercial did not run. The knowledge did not transfer, and a generation grew up paying for what the sky was putting on their roof for nothing. I spent 5 years as a nurse in Lexington. I know what the label says. I also know what my grandmother knew. And I can tell you which one of those two bodies of knowledge has been keeping families alive in this hollow for 150 years without a monthly invoice attached to it. That is not a conspiracy. It is just how the money flows. My grandmother did not know that. She only knew that the holler provided, and that a woman who could give her children clean water from what fell on her roof did not need to ask permission from anyone. So here is what I want you to do. This weekend, not next month, this weekend, I want you to do 4 things. 1. Walk your property and find your best collection surface. Metal roof is first choice. Tile is acceptable. Measure the square footage. 1,000 square feet of roof surface can collect roughly 600 gallons of clean water from a single inch of rainfall. Find your surface and measure it. That number is your starting point. 2. Look up your state's rainwater collection regulations. The American Rainwater Catchment Systems Association has a free guide at their website. Go there. Take 15 minutes. Know the rules before you buy a single barrel. 3. Make one phone call this week to a local food processing plant, brewery, car wash, or restaurant distributor. Ask about food-grade 55-gallon drums. You are looking for 2. You should pay between $8 and $15 each, cleaned. If the first call goes nowhere, try the next number down the list. Someone in your county has them. 4. Find activated charcoal. Any aquarium supply store, homebrew shop, or agricultural co-op will carry it. 2.5 pounds will build your first filter layer. Write this down before you close this video. Until then, set a clean bucket under your downspout the next time rain comes through. Let it fill. Let it settle overnight. Then look at that bucket and understand that you are looking at 600 gallons per inch falling on a roof that is bigger than that bucket by a factor of 1,000. That is where this starts. 1 bucket in the rain. Tell me in the comments, does anyone in your family still collect rainwater? Your grandmother? Your great aunt? A neighbor you remember from childhood who had barrels along the house? Tell me what they used and how they stored it. I want to know what is still out there in people's memories before it goes. Because the women who kept this country alive through hard winters and harder years knew things we are only just beginning to remember. Don't let it die with a generation.